начинать, пока нет. Женька. Eugene. You both speak there.
Yo. You tell first introduction, and I will. I will like Kostiantyn.
Yeah, then basically like on with the root introduction. Maybe I don't know. Maybe someone else wants to say anything.
Okay. I will wait when you give me the speech.
Right.
And then you, and someone introduce me and what I will do next.
You will figure it out.
Okay. Yo. This microphone for us.
But the sound goes there, not here.
Okay, I will step outside, right?
No,
As you wish.
yeah.
Working before delivery.
So whenever Anton gives me the get go, I can start. So Anton, let me know when we can begin.
Yes.
Actually, and I shouldn't like on the screen, right?
I don't know.
All right, and we're live. Shall we begin? Yes.
All right, everybody, a very warm welcome to the August version of iMunich Meetup. Very nice to see you all here. Before we begin, I have like an announcement from the organization side, the community side of the Meetup. And the thing is that I have been, you have seen me, I think some of you know my face, one of the organizers. And because I will basically be taking a back seat for maybe 3 or 4 months. And we are going to, in that time, welcome, like you probably have also seen Eugene in some previous meetups. He has been lurking around. He handles the streaming, and used to handle the streaming in the last meetup. And so I would like to warmly welcome Eugene to the organization team of iMunich.
Thank you.
And with that,
Of course.
I will give it to him now, and he will take it
Yeah.
forward.
I thank you for invite, and I'm really happy to help you with the organization and to do this very nice job and very nice this meetups. So I'm enjoyed. I'm excited. That's nice. I'm happy. And what's next? Should I ask first speaker or some introduction? The host. Yeah. So I give microphone to you. So thanks all.
Yeah, it's okay. It's too late for that. Thank you very much for announcing the host. I'm part of Celus team. This is our office, and we would like to all welcome warm in our offices. Here you could have found some refreshment. Drinks are in the both fridges on the right. And we also prepared some giveaways for you. There is a couple of stickers and a logical game, which is a wooden puzzle that you can charge yourself to put back in pieces together. My colleague, Andrey, give him a round of applause, please. Woo! He's also one of the speakers, so I'm not going to talk too much about what we do as a company, but he will go into details and you will know more about us. Enjoy, have fun, and if you want to talk to us and get to know us better, you can see people in the same shirt or a whiteboard. We are all ready for your questions. Have fun. Thank you.
Thank you. So next I'm going to ask Kostya to come here. This is Kostya, the software engineer. He works with Python and with machine learning, and also he patient of opossums. That's very interesting. All right.
Welcome to Costa.
Woo! Yeah.
All right. I guess
You can start.
I can start. So we share my screen.
Yes. Yes.
Whee! Right. So let's kick off your model version with MLFlow and something more which MLFlow can allow us to do. First thing first, we announced model versioning, but it's more correct to call experiment tracking. Why do we need to track and what kind of experiments? So to clarify this, I want to show you. Oh, there is my mouse. Nice. Process diagram of CRISP-DM, cross-industry standard process for data mining applications. And I believe most of you work in some parts of this cycle. So how it starts? There is a business problem, and we need to understand this problem. We need to collect some data. We need to prepare this data, do some feature engineering. Then there is a modeling stage when we're trying to find a model which describes this data at the best. So then, so this model can produce some results inside about our data. And we're doing evaluation, getting back with our results to business, and we're deciding are we going to deploy this model or we need to improve somehow. And on this talk, we are focusing mostly on this modeling part of process. It's always terrible to hear your own voice. So, yeah, modeling. Modeling is not easy part, and because it's a part of every iteration, as you can see, it's even more harder because on modeling stage, data scientists, ML engineers, they have to build lots of models to compare them, to decide which one we can proceed, which one we can show later for evaluation. And because of we have a lot of models, we have somehow to keep an eye on every of them to track them. Back in the days when I started to dive in the machine learning field area, I was going through some guides or online courses. All of them going like you have fancy Jupyter notebook, and workflow is next. Like you creating as a developer some model, let's say classifier, right? You have some function to train this classifier to get some scores, and then you are just printing in the Jupyter notebook or somewhere some results in text form. You can see charts also a pretty important part of model evaluation. And of course, we have a lot of models, we have a lot of cells in our Jupyter notebook, and well, that's become a mess pretty fast. Well, once you have like I don't know, 10 models, you have scroll a lot, and it's hard to compare with just eyes because you have to memorize a lot. Of course, you can create a CSV file or a spreadsheet. Not helps a lot. That's why to make those iterations faster, we need something better, which looks well with graphical representation, which we can analyze with eyeball check, or even better, like to plot in a nice way. And that's where some tools, one of them, MLFlow, comes to help us. What is MLFlow? It's not only for experiment tracking. It's open source platform from Databricks to automate machine learning life cycle. Picture from their documentation. So that's how this life cycle looks in a bit details. What's good about MLFlow? It's licensed open source with Apache license 2.0, which means you can use it in almost any project and, well, don't pay anything. It's written in Python, and it has pretty good plugin support, which means third-party vendors who wants to print something in order to integrate with MLFlow, they write in plugins. Example I like is Dibya, who wrote and released a plugin to deploy models from MLFlow model registry to Triton inference server. And well, if you have some deep learning models which needs to be like efficient, you can use this plugin, and everything is cool. And most important for me was back in the days, it's really easy to scale from your local machine to enterprise. You just install it with pip as any other Python package. You type MLFlow UI, and well, you're good. You already have a tracking server on your local machine. If you want something more sophisticated, like just a second, I guess I lost. I don't know. Something like that. So you're training your models or you're running some code. This code reports to tracking server, artifacts stored in some blob storage or S3 protocol storage, and other data on your Postgres. So basically, it's ready to thing to deploy on your Kubernetes cluster and be happy about that, or Azure or AWS. Let's move forward. So that's how to install that and use in code. There is code snippet which maybe don't telling you so much. I want to show in action how it looks like, and that's how web interface looks. So basically, that's my experiment I created for my purpose classifier to understand if some image it's a possum image or it's a cat image. And actually, it's really a hard problem because they look pretty similar. Now you will see. So those are logged models from my run. So I was playing with different layers, the decision layer of, I guess I took ImageNet, and well, they filtered, so validation was not high. Let's look how logged model looks. There is some run ID, how it was logged, by whom, status. There is a metrics, and if you are doing machine learning or data science, most likely you are familiar with those curves. It's loss for train, and let's add some validation loss to compare. Oop, oh, it looks so. So here we can see the chart looks weird, but well, it's because model is not good. I got not so much training data, and well, obviously from here you can see model overfitting and not generalized as well. What else we can do? We can take a look at some artifacts which is stored with the model. For example, here is just the image. It's plotted with pyplot with examples like first 10 images and predictions for those images. So all of them are cats, there are possum. Wow, that's not bad. I guess this image just doesn't demonstrate how hard. Oh yeah, so here the model is really sure it's a possum, but no. So this image, it was logged as artifact together with a metrics during model training. What else we can do? We can log if some of you prefer to plot charts in Plotly, for example, and interactive as you see. So here you can log it in the same way as you see them in Jupyter Notebook or exported to Dash. So they're fully interactive and well, easy. Other things are logged automatically. It's model requirements to, well, deploy model. All right. So how to log all these things? Let's jump to the code because it's not that hard. Here, because it's PyTorch model, I'm just enabling auto log. It makes my PyTorch Lightning logger just write my metrics to MLFlow. And that's basically all I need to do. But if I want to do some extra, I can log some parameters if we have some hyperparameters, and they will be displayed in interface like this. So here is our parameters, and there was a layers tuple. Here is it. Then we can log some extra metrics. We can log pyplot figures, and it's just built in. So this function generates a figure, and log figure, do it. And this plotting size function generates plotly.
Go on.
It doesn't work, or
It works.
okay.
People outside to hear you.
All right. We can just log this figure to HTML file, and so it's really easy to start. Yeah, that's a minimum example. If you just want to keep track of your models. And what else we have inside? So as you can see here in the interface, there is models column. We can get something about this model, and there is already pre-written code how to use this code, this model for Spark, because it was open sourced by Databricks. So Databricks and Spark, they are together, and that's how you can just, after you log the model, use it for making some predictions already. And also you can register this model with some, okay, it's be cat versus possums. It would be third version. After I register model, I can assign a stage. So you see, there is all the capabilities to not only log your models, but provide a rest of workflow. So you can mark it as ready for staging, mark it for ready to production. And okay, one my model already marked as a staging, so it warns me about previous model will be archived. All right, I'm good with that. That's something extra which you can get after you just used built-in functionality from the box for login. And of course, you don't have to use Jupyter Notebook. So like, it's better to use some training scripts or pipelines, and MLFlow also can help with that because it also defines even templates to create multi-step workflows where you can define like data preparation step, prediction, evaluation, decision if we should promote this model or not. Like all of this already included. Let's back to presentation. What kind of models we can track? Yes. So basically all the popular frameworks supported, like PyTorch and TensorFlow, sklearn. If it's not supported yet, you can just always log it as generic Python function, and it still be okay. And well, because of hot topic LLMs, it also can block large language models predictions. What's else? Yeah, what else included in MLOps part? So after you finished your experiments and well, after data scientist or machine learning engineer creates some models, it should somehow get to production, right? So MLFlow provides you model registry, which I showed you right now. It provides model serving capabilities. So you can just serve model with MLFlow, or you can prepare your model for deployment, means like generate Kubernetes chart, I believe. For deployment, you just have to provide some template, Apache Spark UDF. Well, I mentioned it. Azure, it can run project on Azure, and well, by run project, I mean those pipelines I mentioned before. Or you can deploy on Azure ML, or you can deploy on SageMaker. Well, whatever you want. And of course, well, Databricks, because it's from Databricks. Yeah, this slide I included because in documentation everywhere, they also saying like, all right, you can also store training data for your models. But, well, if you are training a lot of models, and if you're training not on simple tabular data where you have like 1,000 records, but, well, like few gigabytes, it's not cool, and it's better not to do this MLflow, even though it's stated like it's okay. Better, my personal point of view, it's better to do with capabilities of your data lake, or as part prepare some data as part of your pipeline, and then just store the dataset ID or some reference to your dataset to model parameters, and you are good. Your storage does not explode, and yeah, it's a very different process from modeling. Yeah. Okay. On here is a QR code, which is, I guess you cannot scan because of, but well, not a big deal. Maybe you can just memorize link in case if you need some scripts to quickly kick off your local environment with Min.io for S3 storage, with Postgres, with MLFlow, which really looks like production grade environment. You can just use my repository and all the instructions inside, I believe. Yeah, so there is a guide how to use it, which environment variables to set, and yeah, you are welcome if you want to try. Yeah, that's it for me. Take a one more look on this beautiful possum. And thank you. If you have any questions, yes, now it's the right time.
Now a good time. 1 second, I'll moderate it. Yeah, we are a bit over capacity, as you can see, but we improvise. So, questions. The first one, please. Yes. 2 questions. That's only because you are really nice and a good friend. So let's start with the first one, and then we decide.
First one is what alternatives are there to MLflow? And the second one is for us,
having all the models in storage started exploding cost.
We need to repeat questions
Yes,
because
yes,
of
yes,
the
yes, yes.
online speakers. So first one was alternatives to MLFlow, and the second part.
Basically, what would you recommend? How to make sure that the costs do not explode? I understand the point that you made not to stop the data in storage. But,
Yeah. Okay, so thank you. First, alternatives. I actually wanted to include these two slides, but well, we are kind of a bit limited in time. But famous ones, it's DVC. Guess the oldest one. It's weight and biases, but well, they are not free. You have to buy the service, and then you can use. It's, I believe, it's cloud-based platform, but you also can do your local deployment. You just have to provide token. Neptune AI, also cloud-based. I'm not sure if they providing like on-premises capabilities. Yeah. What's also like noticeable, DVC and Neptune AI, they also saying they will take care about your data versioning as well. DVC, it's data versioning control. System control. Yeah, so they were about data versioning at first. About your storage exploded after you started to log models. It's interesting. Well, I guess you have huge models. Maybe it's like Llama 7 billion parameters. Huh? Yeah, well, that's an interesting question because of what you can do. For example, well, if you're using AWS, the fastest way would be to create another S3 bucket and just introduce policy like if some experiment more than, I don't know, like 1 month old, then archive it to a 3 Glacier type storage. It would be way cheaper. And well, who knows if you will need it afterwards. Another question is what type of models, because some of models MLFlow stores just as a pickle, which is not efficient. If you can convert it to on a mix format or use PyTorch search format, that can help. Yeah, because pickle is the worst. Maybe you.
Okay. Do we have more questions? Yes, I see one over there. Please. Oh, you didn't raise the hand? It was just the motion. Okay. Okay. Any more questions? Either. Oh, okay. Go
How
ahead.
much is it actually used in production companies? Like, do you know that? Like, how big is it actually?
Well,
Also, how much support is there for MLFlow, or how big is the community?
Well, it's backed by Databricks, which is itself quite large. It's part of Azure ML stack. Well, maybe not standard, but they recommend it. So I would say support is pretty active, and by looking just at the amount of plugins officially supported from different vendors who's also playing in AI field, it seems pretty active to me. That's why it was like platform as choice for me. It feels alive, and it's open source, which is, well, not a lot of products like that right now on the market. So most of them are either proprietary or really cloud-based.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So at least for me, it looks promising right now. Yeah. One more comment about model storage and a lot of people training a lot of models. So you also most likely have a lot of stored models because you are tuning hyperparameters, and for every experiment you store it. One of the straightforward solution would be don't do grid search, do some kind of Bayesian optimization, like try Optune or something else, which you can achieve good results in pretty limited amount of iteration for your hyperparameters search. Yeah, don't do grid search because it's like it's square. It produces a lot of data. It takes a lot of time. That's first things on top of my head.
Very good. We have time for one last question, maybe, or maybe not. Perhaps it was very clear. So, big thanks.
Thank you.
Big thanks. It was a good talk. Okay. Organizational our best to plan. We never know how many people will actually show up. You know, there were 40 people on the wait list. So like 150 people signed up. We are here 60 and we are already on the limit. But when you have the break, we will readjust the seating a little bit. So we will move seating here forward, here more condensed. So hopefully nobody will have to stay there. Sorry for this. We will fix this hopefully. I'm Anton, you maybe know me. I'm one of the organizers. Yeah, today we have a big organizational team. Come here. This is another co-organizer. It's Leon. He's shy. Let me take just one shameless selfie. Good. I thought he's 5, so it's time.
Yes, good time to start.
Good. So now we have like 10-15 minutes break. We're going perfectly to the schedule. So next speaker will prepare, set everything up. We will meanwhile adjust the seating, and you have your refreshments. We will open windows, and hopefully in 10 minutes gets better. Thank you very much.
We skipped the is mic is working correct assert. Yeah. Sometimes happens. Yeah. Mic check one. Mic check 1 2. All good. Yeah, I hear me. So, and yeah, I was talking about our tool, and yeah, you drag and drop, then you export, and then at the output you have some CAD tools file with the layout, with the schematics, yeah, and then you can. Sorry. Gerber files. No, we not at this stage. We don't support Gerber files, but schematics and the layout. Yeah. 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 Exactly. And then you just do some changes. You can go back in the process. And for example, imagine if your favorite chip manufacturer has a chip shortage, then sometimes happens. You can go back into BOM and change the chip to another one. So this is what we are doing. And to achieve this, we are using, yeah, you've seen this canvas is written in the React. We have Postgre, Mongo, and as databases, some C++ and C for these things which are require the power, yeah, the processing time. And everything is running in the clouds, in AWS. We have Kubernetes cluster, and the rest of the backend is written in Python. And we are developing this in the 5 development teams. We have QA and DevOps. We have microservice architecture. Our services are asynchronous within Fast API. Yeah, like I said, in Kubernetes. Each service is, of course, multiple replicas for high availability. We have EFK stack for logs. And then we have end-to-end test running every run, which generating more logs in the morning. Yeah. With all this setup, you probably will face problems like you will open the Kibana to have huge amounts of logs where it's challenging to find like what happened in the system. And since we're running asynchronous services and they are using multiple replicas, there are like lots of things that are happening at the same amount of time. And if something went wrong, you will have this nice traceback. Yeah, it probably doesn't see well, but this is like actually a separate message for each line of the traceback, which is kind of polluting your logs. Yeah, this is small traceback, but imagine if the traceback has hundreds of lines and you have this in the Kibana, and it's really challenging to understand what's going on. Yeah, and we thought like like in natural language, like some words that have its meaning only in the context. So does the logs, yeah. So and when I was thinking like what should the context look like, it should be like case compliant. So it should be easy to use and easy to people to consume from the Kibana. Yeah, it should be like ideally set once and applied to every log request. That so fire and forget. Propagate to third-party libraries, because sometimes you have this like you have lost the connection to the message queue. You want to understand what did that. Yeah, it will probably throw the traceback, which you need also have this context attached. It should be propagate both down and up through the call stack and support asynchronous, since we have this in our setup. And what exactly is context? This is a bunch of identifiers which help us in our search, like request ID, transaction ID. If you have Jaeger in your setup, it's probably trace ID, resource ID, user ID, lots of them. So it's IDs which help you in the search. And which approaches you can have? Straightforward one, just to use f-string. Yeah, probably you have a long line and no k at the end, but it does not scale well, and you need to pass this everywhere. You can set up global variables, but it won't work for concurrency, because everybody will change this value at the same amount of time. Probably you will find in the internet that there is Loguru module, yeah, which has something like they call contextualize. Yeah, but this is next to dependency, and probably if you scale it to the teams, probably it will be challenging, because maybe there will be some conflicts, maybe they update something, or yeah. And also, what is also crucial is the context here is actually tied to the logger instance. So probably you won't have these context propagating to your logs, which are of third party. Yeah, and of course you can develop new logging tool which handle like the logs the way like we want, but like better not to do that. They're not reinventing the wheel. And there is, I was questioning myself, is there something standard in Leaf for that? And I found Contextvar. So Contextvar, it's a variable defined by thread / coroutine. Yeah, it's a part of standard Python library, which is good. If you check the path of this Contextvar, you will find that this is logging is one of the use cases, so probably we are on the right path. It has native asyncio support, which is cool if you're running asyncio. Works for thread as well. Yeah, maybe it will be also a good thing. Yeah, but the problem is for some reason I found little information about it in the internet in the context of using the logging. So that's why I decided maybe it's a good idea for this pitch. And yeah, and the architecture for this setup. So we have the Contextvars on the one side, they have logging on the other side. We need to mix them together. And how we will do that is using logging.formatter, just extending it and injecting the these variables into logging, and then we export this JSON format, which will be parsable by our EFK stack. So let's check some code. Yeah, hopefully everybody can look at that. Yeah. So basically, this is like first of all we need to define this context variables. Yeah, and the documentation said they should be defined as close to the beginning of your application start, yeah, as possible. So we move them at the separate file, yeah, and we are starting by defining the Contextvar themselves. We are defining them like this, so we will have the IDE helping us, because like when you Contextvars dot user ID, you have this support by AEDE, yeah. Reading the documentation, you will find you need to specify the name of it and the default value. Default value is crucial here, because if you don't set up, if you call in the getter, you probably will get lookup error in the future. Yeah, you will see if later why is this important. And then we collect this environmental variables in this fancy way, just to give it to the formatter to formatter, we give the tuple of these environmental variables. Yeah, I guess I'm moving too much and triggering the, yeah. So let's get to the formatter. So formatter is just using standard library logging module, just redefining the format method. Yeah. First of all, we are setting up log and level just to make it backwards compatible with the, for example, Nginx or another third-party deployments which we have in our cluster. Yeah. Then we have some information about records which we also probably want to attach, and we attach it under the app node of the JSON. Why we are doing that? Because in the Kibana, you will see it in the future, it will be nicely grouped together. Then we need the exception information. So we are also adding it under the app node, and we are treating it as an array of strings. You will also see why later. Then we are actually injecting the context variables. We are iterating through the couple of variables we defined the last step. We checking if this variable has the value in it, and we attach it like to the app as well. This get is important because sometimes it's really you want to treat it as a normal variable. Don't do that, because if you're starting treating the context variable as a normal variable using the operator, you will have this class strings, but not class of Contextvar, which will make you problems in the future. Yeah, you need to call getter and the setter method. Yeah, you don't see that, but press set and somewhere get. Yeah. Then we need to combine this all together. Nothing fancy, just we're using standard library. Standard libraries for this. So just in the function to make it easier. Yeah, and for the demo, we just we are importing everything. We are setting up logger, which was in the previous slide. We are setting the third-party logger to the debug level just for sake of demonstration. We set up the IDE, yeah, creating a logger, and then we are doing some logging. So we are logger and flow test log message and request get.celos, and we try to see how our exception looks like. That will look like this. So test message, the resource ID here and everywhere is here. We're in the third-party library. And here is the traceback. Let's format it a beautiful way. We will see like the traceback, which is readable. So yeah. Then let's check how it does look in the Kibana. So in the orange, you will see like everything which we've set up nicely grouped together, so it's easier to debug. Yeah. The blue one is what was injected by FluentD, and the green one is that I was talking about, like local level for the backwards compatible with another services. The exception looks like this. If you open this in the table, you will see this ugly thing, which you cannot like read it. But if you click JSON, you will see nice formatted exception. In this one is 120 lines, and it's hidden in one document, and you don't have this pollution in your Kibana. Then, yeah. Let's check the case when we are trying to see what user did. Yeah? This is the idea of one of our QA's engineer, and I was wondering what she did last week with our services. So I put there her user ID. Yeah, I removed it because I'm paranoid. Yeah, but trust me, everything is there. I removed the proc engine folks from there just to show you, because it will be also like some pollution there. Yeah, and we see that she logged in, she gets some resources, then she tried to see her attributes, get to the welcome page, blah 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 blah. Here you can see that she tried to use some special characters in the file name to maybe she tried to break stuff. Then we see that actually it was successfully uploaded, and yeah, so that's how it looks like in Kibana. You can do the same with the resource ID to track the life cycle of the resources, with the trace ID, everything you set up. As a bonus, the fast API middleware, probably you think that it's gonna be straightforward, but for us didn't, because fast API middleware prevents of changing of the contextvars to propagate onwards. What does it mean? If you set the environmental variables in your view, it won't be set in the middleware after the request is processed. So if you have log.info, like if you are overriding the access log, you won't have the information which you've set in your view. Yeah. To overcome that, you need to go deep on the low level. So you need to write pure ASGI middleware. And actually, let docs says about this problem. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, this is how it does it look like. Looks like scary because we are creating it from scratch, not inheriting from something. But actually, this part was copy pasted from the docs. Yeah. Then this is pure middleware, which means it will apply not only for HTTP requests, but for WebSockets and the lifecycle event as well. We don't need that, so we just filter this event. And we are setting the environmental variable here. And that was all. If you have some questions, I will be happy to answer.
Bravissimo. Okay, let's do Q&A. Questions, please.
As I was following your presentation, this reminded me of a thing called Sentry, which seems to solve the same problem. So have you used that? How does it compare?
We use it together with Sentry, actually.
Okay, what is it doing that Sentry doesn't? Except getting more and more logs.
When you start thinking about how to go further, For example, if you're thinking about some security event system, yeah, where you can export logs from your Kibana and to block the user depending on the strange things he did or she, yeah. Sentry I guess want to give you this kind of opportunities. Also, the sentry is triggered when something bad has happened, like an unhandled exception, and actually we need the information about what happened before, what happened in the service which was before the problematic service which triggers the exception. So I would say they go together. Maybe the exception raised in Sentry invites you for the conversation, and this is how the conversation then goes. Like, okay, this is where it started, and then you started going deeper. So you got more insights. They come together, not competing with each other, in my opinion.
Thank you. We have more questions.
I have one question. I saw on slide the part of code where you use locals for I didn't read so fast.
Yes.
Yeah. How you use locals there and
Yeah, let me go back to this slide. I need to find it. It's a demo. Be careful. And one more. Here we use. Yeah. Why? Yeah.
Here, it's just for
Just a fancy way to collect every a context var we have in this file. Because we context variables this tuple, and the next step will just to iterate through this tuple. Yeah.
Okay. In my case, I use the Contextvars for working in Google Cloud. The pipeline with services, instances of Cloud Run, and we need to collect, trace some logs for task waiting, for example, what runs in a pipeline. While I found it interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, thanks. More questions? No. Very good. Then big thanks, Andrey.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a chase game coming up. The delivery guy is somewhere near, so our kind organizers, because I said now it's time because we have a break. They're chasing around the building and on Newton building. I hope they catch him.
Hide and seek.
With pizza, yes. If not, we'll have to go assist them. Maybe all together, like more of a human chain.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now we assume pizza is coming here really soon. So let's have 15 minutes break, and we have last talk after this. Last talk is from Dibya, one of the organizers, and this is like his final performance before he goes into his long break. And it's about LLMs and ChatGPT. He's crazy enough. Yeah, he ran it on his machine. He bought like a huge computer, super expensive, just to train this himself. So he has something to share. Something to share. Let's see after the break. Yes. He will. Yes. Okay, you come here.
Come here, come here. Come.
Muted. Is it muted?
No. Muted.
Ready? So either the delivery guy was very hungry and ate it along the way. That's possibility one. Possibility two is he cannot see well at night. Maybe his phone got discharged, but he's coming. He will be. Hopefully, or we have to bet it ourselves. Yeah. Meanwhile, yeah, to lose time, we thought we continue with the schedule. People are also online waiting there. Yeah. That's why we continue. And our next and final speaker is the super mighty Dibya, who tells us about LLMs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. So this talk is about large language models like ChatGPT. So I am curious, how many of us in this room have used ChatGPT? Can you please raise your hands? So that's basically everybody. Okay. Right. So I therefore definitely don't need to say much more about ChatGPT. You have used it, you know it. And ChatGPT is amazingly useful. I will go as far as to say that it's probably one of the transformational technologies of our time, or the beginning of one at least. But it's like any technologies, it has a few shortcomings. Number one, ChatGPT hallucinates. It means that when you ask it a question, it is possible that it confidently makes up a bullshit answer. And this has been covered enough in the media, so I will again not go much deep into this. I think this is common knowledge. And while I think that this does not take away from ChatGPT's usefulness, it's still very useful. It takes away a little bit, maybe. The second is that ChatGPT is trained on public data, which means that ChatGPT does not work when you have questions about either your company's internal documentation, which is probably gated behind a VPN or a login. And inside that world, there are internal documentation hubs like Confluence, internal wikis, internal code repositories, files in corporate file sharing services, Dropbox, Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, whatever you use. There's a treasure trove of information over there, which ChatGPT obviously does not have any access to, has never seen, and cannot help you if you have a question about that. Second thing, this is like, I don't know how much of a use case this is, but I feel it could be something. There is also a treasure trove of information in each of our computers. There is private notes, private photos, videos we took, audios, songs, movies that we have, documents, all the bills that you get, your identification documents may be scanned in your computer, maybe some code that you wrote as a hobby project, never published anywhere. That's also a treasure trove of information. And I don't think that we all remember what's in our computer. And we would, I guess, love to have an assistant that can help us if we have a question about these huge sets of data. But ChatGPT cannot do that because it's trained on public data, and this is not public data. Point number 3 is that ChatGPT has an information cutoff. It doesn't know anything published after September 2021. So that's the cutoff date. So if you ask ChatGPT a question about anything that was published after that, you will either get a canned response about its knowledge cutoff, or it will hallucinate an answer for you, right? So for instance, I want to I have, I guess, ChatGPT open here somewhere. And here is a Python package that has been tremendously popular. It's called LangChain, not to be confused with langsearch, what this talk is about. LangChain, tremendously popular Python package right now, 60K stars in GitHub, but was published after the knowledge cutoff. Therefore, if you ask ChatGPT, what are the use cases of the Python package LangChain? And then you get a canned answer about, that its knowledge cutoff is September 2021, so it has no idea what this is. So that's also a piece of information that you are not getting. Now, there is a solution to these problems, and the solution is called retrieval augmented generation. It's a term I think has been newly invented, but it's a term that has been adopted in the community. And this is a well-known method. This is nothing that's cutting edge. It's a well-known method, has been popular since last year for mitigating the shortcomings. And what it does is that it brings two things together: a large language model and along with semantic search. Let's look at how these two combinations can mitigate these shortcomings. And to look at that, we will first see how an LLM is normally used. So normally, you're making a prompt. The prompt is going directly to the LLM, and the LLM is providing you a result based on the prompt. However, when you do retrieval augmented generation, wait, I actually had even a example here. So the prompt says that, hey, tell me about the main use cases of LangChain. And since the LLM is dependent on its memory, it has no external memory, and that memory has a training cutoff of September 2021, it will tell you either the standard trope about the knowledge cutoff or hallucinate, as I said earlier. Now, the way to mitigate that using retrieval augmented generation, that architecture looks a bit like this. And is my mouse visible here? Okay, it is. So the way this works is as follows. So once again, I will give it a prompt. Tell me about LangChain. So that's my prompt over here. But this time, I'm actually going to supply the LangChain documentation to the LLM via some convoluted way. Yeah, you see, I will explain that why we have to take that route. But the main thing to notice is that the LLM is not just getting my prompt, it is also getting information from the LangChain documentation, which I have downloaded on my system and I'm providing to the LLM. And then based on that, it can now answer, saying that, hey, it helps building applications that need to orchestrate multiple LLM calls. No longer says, I don't know, because now the information source is given to it, right? Now, there is two aspects of this that deserves closer attention. Number one, see that I'm passing the documentation into the context of the LLM. So basically, I'm combining the prompt along with the information from the documentation to create a new prompt, sending that to the LLM. And as we all know, LLMs have a context window. They have a, so for instance, I think ChatGPT, like the 3.5 model had a context length of 4,000.
Now it's 16.
Huh?
Now it's 16.
Now the GPT-4 is 16, right?
GPT 3.5.
Even GPT, how much is it?
16K.
16K, yeah. Okay, 16K total. that, of course, means, so the LangChain documentation is certainly greater than 16K tokens, right? So you cannot pass the entire documentation in your context. So somehow you have to filter what information you're passing it, right? And that is where this vector DB guy shines. So this is a tool, I will not go into the details, but just know that vector DBs are something that helps us, given a prompt, to identify snippets in the documentation that could potentially contain the answer. We take those snippets, combine it with the prompt, pass it to the LLM. This is a bit like an open book examination. You know, like when you go for an exam and your professor says that, hey, you can actually use the book and write the answer. So this is the book, right? To make this a little more clear, let's see how an actual RAG stands for, again, retrieval augmented generation, how a prompt would actually look like. And this has 3 sections. The first one is an instruction to reduce hallucination, because this is one of our goals, right? I said it's a shortcoming, so we want to clamp down on hallucination a little bit. So we say that answer the question at the end truthfully based on the following context. If the answer cannot be inferred from the context, say, I don't know, right? And this means that, and then I will pass it some snippets from the documentation, and hopefully, if everything works out, then if the context does not contain the answer to the question, ChatGPT will actually say, I don't know, instead of hallucinating an answer. That is the hope. So that's the first section. The second is the snippet potentially containing answers. These snippets are coming from the vector database, right? And then comes the question. So this is how a constructed prompt would look like. Now, here's a little bit of a personal story. So I thought that this was like, you know, this thing was a very good idea. And what happened is last year I changed my job. So I joined a new company. Then immediately after joining, found out that their onboarding, I would say, let's call it minimal, very minimal kind of an onboarding. And the documentation is vast and scattered all over the place in different kind of systems. So in the beginning, I was really struggling to find answers to questions, right? I mean, I think in a situation like this, even a good enough classical search would have helped me out, yeah? But I mean, in any case, I thought that, hey, now we have LLMs, like this is the new search. So why don't I try to use that on this company's documentation and see if that in any way helps me search for information faster or find information faster. And then when I started doing that, I realized that this architecture, how I showed it, and how it's shown everywhere, is not really complete. And why? And this is basically the culprit. So this assumes that I have the data neatly arranged somewhere sitting on my computer, which is not the case. Documentation is often web-based. The pages are often numbering in thousands, sometimes 10,000, sometimes more than that, depending on the type of the company. So it's totally impractical to download one by one. And often no one person in the company even has an overview of where are the places where documentation could be. Thirdly, it's changing all the time. It sounds good in theory that you download it once in your system and you do all this fancy searching, but hey, your information might not be up to date because it changes every day. But this is not a new problem. This problem has been solved a long time ago. And the software that does this is called a crawler. And in Python, we have a great package which implements crawling called scraping, right? Second point, data. So again, once again, let's look at this. This again neatly assumes that this is text documents. Is it? if you try to do this in the real world, you will encounter all kinds of documents: HTML, PDF, docx, MP4, MP3, PNG, the list goes on and on and on, right? And let's see what goes on. If you want to pass this kind of file types into the vector database, what you need to do in order to do that. Easiest is plain text. So for example, a Python file, I would call that plain text. There you need to do something called text splitting, intelligently split the file into chunks, because vector DBs have a limitation of context length as well. And you can do that. So this LangChain package that I was talking about has implemented many nice methods for doing that. So yeah, I mean, you can use any other tool as well, but LangChain works great. Then the second thing is that you need to save your file into a crawl database, because if it's just in your vector database, it doesn't help anybody. You need to make sure you know what data you have, so that when data changes on the web, you know that it has changed. Otherwise, you will be downloading everything every time, which is very inefficient. And embedding, using language models, these are all costly operations. We want to be as efficient as possible. So you need to maintain a crawl DB. Once you do that, you can go into the vector DB and index it. For HTML web pages, first thing, this is an optional step, but many HTML web pages are actually contain broken HTML. So if you parse it using LXML, you'll see that the parsing fails. If you use the safe method, it will try to fix it. So an optional method doesn't, not always needed, but sometimes makes a difference. Second thing is web pages are full of boilerplate. So copyright information, the same menus every time. This is information pollution. And if you can improve the quality of your input, the output of the LLM also improves. So the better the boilerplate removal quality you have, the better your results will be. The best tool that I know, best open source tool, is Mozilla Readability. This is exactly what you see. This is exactly what's used when you use reader mode in Firefox, for instance. Next thing, so you have the HTML, but you need to extract plain text from it. It's not a trivial task at all. A package called Inscriptis does this very well. So there are other alternatives as well, but one of them. Once again, text splitting using LangChain, safe to crawl DB, vector DB, the same as before. Audio and video data. You need to transcribe the audio. The state of the art right now for doing that is, again, a model from OpenAI called OpenAI Whisper. Once you have the text, you do text splitting, and then the same thing repeats. In the case of images, one of the real-world problems is that images are often really big. And actually, if you want to just do image search, you don't need those huge sizes. So therefore, there is, again, another possibility to be more efficient here by resizing the image before you index it. So that would be the pre-processing step. Now let's combine it. There is also PDF docx. Okay, not finished yet. Yeah. So in the case of PDF docx, you need to use something like Apache Tika. So Apache Tika can handle over 1,000 MIME types. It tries to convert it to HTML, and then afterwards the same things that you did for HTML applies. Long story short, I don't want to bore you with this. I just want to show you that you are dealing with a pipeline that looks at least as complicated as this, yeah? Maybe more, but at least as complicated as this. So this means, and I have now put that entire giant thing into a tiny little box, which looks nice and cute, but it's a giant thing, yeah? So this is what the full architecture looks like. Here's your crawler. It's getting data from the web. Maybe it's also getting data from local systems, putting it into these pre-processing pipelines, and then you are reaching the vector DB, and then this whole thing needs to be set up. And this is what langsearch tries to implement. This is the architecture that it tries to implement. Yeah. This is a hobby project of mine. This is the first time I'm talking about it publicly. So this is the GitHub. It's not product. It's like proof of concept level repository. Doesn't have linters. Doesn't have tests. Doesn't have CI pipelines. But let's see what it can do, right? So the first thing, so we are now over here. I will show you that. Let's define the task. What do we want to do? So we previously found out that ChatGPT has no clue about the LangChain package, right? So let's say I want to ask questions about LangChain, and I want ChatGPT to give me good answers. What do I need to do for that? So this is LangChain's documentation. Basically means I need to crawl this documentation, gather the information, pre-process it, like do the whole shebang that I showed you over there, right? Essentially. So that's what I'm going to try to show you. I will not do it, but I will show you the code, because doing it, maybe then I will type, takes a bit of time. But my goal is to show you how simple the code, this whole architecture becomes when you use this package. So this is in the quick start example. So if you go to GitHub, you can also take a look at all the code that I'm showing you today. So once, so the first step that you need to do is, so let me go back to the right directory here. So where am I? Quick start, right? Okay. So the first command that you need to do, so I'll go step by step. I will not execute them because they have already been executed here. So this is the, I will first start a Scrapy project, yeah? That is the first step. Is the text size visible from the back, or should I increase it? It's okay? Okay. Okay. So once you do that, it will create this whole folder structure. So this is not code that I wrote. This is code that's automatically created when you run Scrapy start project. So it gives you a project structure out of the box. The code I had to add looks like this. Can I get rid of that? Okay. So WebSpider is a class that comes from langsearch. I had to just define a crawler, just subclassed WebSpider, and gave it a name. So I'm basically using the built-in spider from the langsearch package. And I'm going to, so if I'm using a built-in spider, I'm going to tell it that, okay, I want to crawl this website, and I want to crawl it like this. So there are settings for that. So then you go to settings. So all of this code above is not created by me. So all the code here is created by Scrapy when you run Scrapy start project. So it starts your project off with some settings. So these settings are not relevant. The code that is relevant and that I wrote to do this is here. And I'm saying that I want you, Mr. Crawler, to start from that URL. So that would be this URL. That's where I want you to start. And there's another setting. The settings are documented in the package documentation, by the way, which tells it which links it should download, which links are allowed, because I don't want to download all kinds of nonsense from this website. I only want the pages where I feel real information may be contained. And what I did for that, again, followed the website structure a little bit. You see, they have these like sections, either get started, modules, guides, ecosystem, additional resources, community navigator. What I don't want is to click on this. What I don't want is the JavaScript docs. I want the stuff on the sidebar and these sections, right? So that's what I told it. I basically listed the sections here. Like all the links of all the documentation inside these sections will contain it. So this is a regex, as you can see. So the idea is that during crawling, during link following, whenever the crawler will find a link that matches this regex, it will download it. If the link does not match the regex, it will not proceed further with that link. So that's how I'm controlling the scraping or the crawling. There are many more settings. You can control a lot of things using the web spider. We also enable the auto throttle. So this is how we benefit from using a well-known project like Scrapy, because a lot of useful things that are needed for scraping are already given to you if you integrate with that tool. So this setting comes from Scrapy. It does not come from langsearch. But the moment you enable it, it means that if it finds that the scraping is happening too fast and the website is struggling to provide a response, it will exponentially back down. And this is a feature that you want from almost every crawler. Okay. So that's where this part of the thing is happening, yeah? So a few lines of code to define the crawler and a few settings. Now I will show you how small this ginormous pipeline can look like in code, yeah? So that was kind of my goal. I wanted this to look very cute when you write the code, yeah? And not look like this really giant and a difficult thing. So what we need to do, we import a few classes from langsearch, and these are called built-in pipelines. So it gives you some built-in pipelines that exactly execute the pre-processing steps that I showed you before. So the HTML pipeline, for example, will execute the pre-processing steps for the HTML MIME type, text/HTML MIME type. And all I need to do, so your item pipelines will always start with detect item type pipeline, because we always want to know what we are getting. So this code is always constant. And then we just say start assemble HTML pipeline. This means that I'm only expecting HTML. So there are other built-in pipelines. So let's say I have a built-in pipeline for audio, yeah? If I want to have a pipeline that can deal with both these MIME types, I just need to say assemble me the generic HTML pipeline and the audio pipeline. And how it should be assembled is the function of the assemble function, yeah? Is the job of the assemble function. I don't have to think about it. Right. Next step is to start some services that are needed by the crawler. And it needs only one service in this instance, which is a vector database. So I have a Docker Compose file here, which has this vector database. It's open source, called VV8 here. So I will now just start these services and start the crawl right in front of you. Yeah. Hope it works. Pray to the demo gods. So quick start. So I'm starting the vector database. It's already up. And now I'm going to start the scraping using Scrapy crawl. The name of the crawler is LangChain.
Should we put some drama?
Yeah, you can.
I should have prepared dramatic music.
Yeah.
From some movie.
So as we can see that it's working, so this is the text that it's getting, and like, yeah, so this takes around 15 minutes of time, yeah. So I will not make you wait 15 minutes, but huh? Imperial March, yeah. I mean, no. Wait for it. So this is so imagine what's happening now. So now, in such a short time, I have not only covered this, but this is also happening right now as we speak. Yeah, this pre-processing step. So fetching the data, sending it to the pre-processing pipelines, putting it in the vector database. That's what's happening. Now, since stuff is already getting into the vector database, this means that we can now ask the LLM something, right? Because, hey, we have data. So let's try doing that. So what I have done is that I have created a very simple Streamlit app. This is a, I don't know how many of you know this, Python package makes writing content code like, Tkinter code, like you're writing a GUI, basically. Yeah. So all this stuff is, again, not interesting. This Streamlit code, yeah, like front end. But what's interesting is how now I am, once the data is there, how I'm getting answers to my questions. So once you have a question, you just need 2 lines of code to get the answer back from the LLM, which is you use the QHain class, pass the question, and then you just say, you get the output text like a key of the dictionary. What that means is that, like, this is essentially the lower part of the diagram, yeah? This is also encapsulated in 2 lines of code, but again, this is the simplest scenario where I'm using all the default settings. But the QHain class, if you go to it, you can see that you can, change the LLM that you're using, and you can use a lot of different parameters if you wanted to. Okay, back to the web app. So let's try to run it, yeah? Streamlit run web app.py. All right, so now I'm going to give it the same question that I gave to ChatGPT before. What are the use cases of the Python package LangChain? And yeah, now again, like demagogues, because LLMs don't always work the same way. I mean, I have tested this demo, but let us see. Okay, right now it's okay. What I would like you to notice is the time I took from thinking of the project to getting to a result. This is what I was thinking when I was trying to develop this package, to make it fast for you, to reduce the amount of plumbing necessary, but also give you the freedom to extend it as you please. So that is just one data type. Yeah, this is like text. And I also claimed another thing, that this RAG, retrieval augmented generation, prevents hallucination, right? So I know that in the LangChain documentation, nowhere there is an information about what's the highest mountain in the world, right? So if I ask it, what's the tallest mountain in the world, it better say I don't know, right? Because otherwise, it's still hallucinating, and it's not really following the instruction that I gave it. That, huh?
Also rely on the public knowledge, public code.
Of course, it should know it. However, the goal is that by using that instruction, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. If the answer cannot be inferred from the context, then say, I don't know. So the hope is that with that instruction, we will prevent the hallucination. And whenever it will, so let's see if that works, right? Okay, so, right? Okay. Okay. Okay.
So there is some prompt engineering happening. Is there more to the prompt engineering part?
There could be, but I'm not yet at the stage where I'm feeling questions, because I have some more things to show. If you are not bored, that is, I don't know how much time I have left. Huh? Okay. 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 Next cool thing is with images. So I mean, this use case, I mean, I have often wondered. I have so many photos in my computer, and often I'm trying to find that one photo of the cat, and I don't know where I put it, in which folder it is. Why is this so hard, right? So this does not seem to be an obvious use case for a package like this, but it can do it because we deal with image data as well, right? So let's see how we can do that, right? So here I've created another folder. What I've done is that I have like downloaded around 400 nature pictures from Upsplash. Yeah. The code looks exactly the same as before. So this is the good thing, like no matter what you are doing, your code is going to look always simple and small. So same when it comes to the crawler. But notice that instead of the web spider, I'm now using the file spider. So this is another built-in class provided by langsearch, which helps you if you have the files in your local system, essentially. And what I'm saying here in the settings, once again, is that the start folder, sorry, I have to, the start folder is the bulk splash folder. And instead of passing the generic HTML pipeline, I now know that the MIME time will be image, so generic image pipeline, right? Makes sense. And here you see an example of how I'm changing the behavior of a component, a pipeline component, using a Scrapy setting, right? So all of these pipeline components that are hidden from you, they're customizable. So every aspect of how they work can be modified using settings. And this is one such where I'm saying that in the preprocessor that's resizing the image, I want it to resize to a width of 500 pixels because these Upsplash pictures are ginormous, huge. So I want to make it smaller. Okay. Once again, here there is one additional tiny detail that we need the vector database as a service, but we also need Apachetica, because every time you need to deal with MIME types like images or videos, audio, etc., you need the power of Apachetica to detect the MIME type. So that's why it's needed. Okay, with that, I will just start the crawl, which means that, by the way, you can see that the previous crawl has successfully finished. Over here. And since we have persistence, it means the next time we will crawl, it will be way faster because it will not download things that have not changed. So, okay. So I want to stop this and then start up the one for the images. And this time I will take the search queries from you to make it a little more interesting, yeah? So these are nature photographs. You will tell me what you want to see. I will search for it, and we will see if it can find the right photos. So image, local images, local images. I start the services. I start the crawler. Same command, scrapey, crawl, and the name of the scroller. Then it happily, even if the crawler, it should be scraping things from the web, but it can also, deal with files locally because of a simple thing. Every file on your local system has an URL that starts with file ///. There is a colon somewhere as well. Yeah, so okay, since the crawl is started, this means that the images are now getting indexed in our vector database. We can already start asking for photos which has certain characteristics, right? Or like so. Let's do that. Local images, right? Yeah, okay. And then streamlit run webapp.py. Okay, I will first give you a simple example of what I mean by search queries, and then I will take some queries from it. So I want to see some mountains, yeah, in this nature photography. So yeah, okay.
Maybe some possums.
Huh?
Some possums.
Possums. Possums is for animal photography. In nature photography, you probably cannot find it.
Tallest mountain in the world.
That's still the same.
All of them are.
No, this is more, you should think of it more as an image search, because there is no LLM involved here. We are only using the embedding vector database. Huh? No, this is, understand what this is, yeah? This is a compilation, huh? Spring? Yeah. I mean, I don't like these results very much, but yeah.
Ugly tree.
Ugly tree. Is that ugly for you? But this is not ugly. This is beautiful, right?
Beauty is subjective.
One more, and then I will change topic. Stone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rock, stone. Yeah, I mean, bit. I don't. Maybe there is not like a photo of a real stone there in the database, but this is trying to find the closest matches, right? So yeah. So imagine you can today go set this up on your local system, and immediately you have a photo search. Yeah.
So if there is no picture of the stone, what we see here is this a hallucination or a closest match?
It's a closest match. And you can also set a cutoff. So every match is given a score. So you can say that, okay, only show me results if the score exceeds 80%. So then, I mean, here I have said top score. So, all right. So I think, I mean, I should wrap it up. I shouldn't keep you for much longer. But what I want to show you is that you can also do, so I have examples on the repo where you also can deal with MP4 files. So if you have a course downloaded on your computer, this in this case is a course that I teach myself. So I know the information there. But if you don't, then you can use the same thing. So then whatever is in the audio, you can ask questions about that. Yeah. Same thing will happen if I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know that there are if you go into company internal wikis and stuff, I've seen lots of people doing screen share recording and sharing that. So so that's supported. Yeah, MP4, MP3 files. Similarly, there is an example in the repo where you can also do PDFs. Yeah. And feel free to give it a try. I mean, theoretically, it supports more than 1,000 MIME types. I have not put an example for all of this. Okay, but now the big elephant in the room. There is a big elephant in the room, I think, at least. Yeah, I should have put a picture of an elephant here somewhere. Privacy. You don't want ChatGPT to know about your company secrets and the secrets of your personal life, right? So every time I'm doing one of these, I'm sending a query to ChatGPT, even though they have good public privacy policies by now. They have promised that they are not going to use your data for training. But I think for companies, what's more important is the European data privacy laws, which they have to stick to in order to get certain certifications and so on. And there, what makes sense, so this is not a lost cause, because nowadays there are plenty of open source instructing LLMs. Some of them almost as good as ChatGPT. So Llama to Chat, that's one of the ones where human evaluators have found it to be of equal quality. Vicuna at some point advertised that they have 90% of ChatGPT quality, but now people are saying that the evaluation method was flawed. And then there's also GPT for all. So all of these you can set up on your local system. Definitely, if you have a high-end GPU, definitely possible for a company. And the Llama to Chat, the smaller models, you can even run on your CPU. The trick is to use the quantized models, which use lesser floating point bits. So, and in langsearch, once you have set up that open source LLM, the code has to change only that much. Instead of using the QA chain directly, I will just set an argument to the open source LLM, and the support for that open source LLM comes because we are integrated with LangChain, and LangChain has support for open source LLM. So your code will look that simple. So it will, some character changes, and then immediately everything is private. Yeah. So no elephant in the room anymore. So next steps for this, I would really, if you liked it, please try it out at home. There is a documentation. It's work in progress, but important parts of the quick start guide. This is like really easy to try out. Very short guide. And there are some examples here as well. And if you want to know deeper into how this package is doing all these things, you can look into the documentation. Please do that. Contribute if you can. I've been doing this alone. I would love it to. If you also like it and if you also contributed, there is a feature roadmap in the GitHub repository. It's over here. It's the stuff that still are open in to do. So if you would like to send a pull request, if you like the feature, if you have other feature ideas, I don't know, just let me know. My contact details are also on GitHub. Tests are lacking, CI pipeline is lacking, documentation is lacking. This is no way production quality. Also, if you want, you can try to set it up for your company documentation. And you can always contact me if you need support regarding that. As I said, the contact details is in the repo README. Thank you so much for your attention.
Bravissimo. Was better than pizza at the end, I think. Hopefully we have both. So we do not have time. We will have one more, maybe 2 questions max, and then we can continue over there. Asking questions, but yeah, we just want to start cleaning this up and we can continue on that. So, question, lucky one, yes, please.
Any effort or any ideas about combining the 2 words, the context and the open knowledge, like especially in a company context? Okay. One tool is mentioned and there is next to use inside the company and that it can provide
Yeah, this is definitely because the reason why it was saying I don't know was because we prompted it exactly that way. So if you would like a different behavior, all you have to do is to change that part of the thing in black, right, in the top of the prompt. So yeah, you would have to change that to whatever behavior you would want. You can try, yeah. I mean, you can try and see what you get, but the secret is there. I mean, in the prompt. So yeah.
All right. Then I guess we can proceed with more question over there. We will start cleaning this thing up. Then I think we owe Dibya a big applause.
Yeah.
I guess that's it then. Yeah, we still have promised pizza. It's over there. We still have time to have it. Beer chat with all speakers, with us organizers. Will be super happy to hear some feedback. Sorry for hiccups again, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.